Good morning. I'm Gary. This is my wife, Stephanie. And we have a testimony we'd like to share with you. And if you would, just bow your heads real quick. I'd like to do a real quick little prayer. Jesus, I pray right now that you touch Stephanie and I and give us the words of your wisdom to glorify your name, Lord. You're the one that this testimony is all about, not Stephanie and I. Also, I'd like you to touch the people that can hear us, that you give them the strength, Lord, that to give them the strength to ask for help. With our testimony, you are our God. It's all about relationships. In James, you said, come close to you and you'll draw close to us. And that's what it's all about, is relationships. And with that, I'd like to Stephanie.
Takes me a minute to get my nerves under control, but well, Gary and I met 17 years ago, and I was raising my girls on my own, and I wasn't looking for a relationship, but he came into my life, and we had lunch. My sister-in-law asked me if I wanted to meet this guy. I said, probably not. And I met him, and I thought, well, he's all right. But we were sitting there talking at lunch, and he wasn't talking to me at all. And I thought, okay, I'm done. I think I'm out of here. He was talking to my sister-in-law just straight across from him. I was sitting on the side. And instantly I was just, I don't think I want to do this. So I made my little pager go off. I was at the hospital working that day, and we just had lunch for 30 minutes. So I made my pager go off. But, well, I've got a call. I've got to go. And I went about my day, didn't even think about him twice. And Gretchen comes back up to me and says, Nan, he wants your phone number. He thinks you're fine. And I said, well, he didn't even talk to me. He didn't even buy my lunch. Now I'm not going to talk to him. But God had a bigger plan in store, so I said, okay, I'll give him my number. And he called me that night. We talked for 3 hours. And by the time maybe 3 days had gone by, we went on our third date, and we were basically talking about planning our life together. And we were married 3 months later. And everything went pretty good for a while. I thought we had a perfect marriage, and he was perfect for me. But my oldest daughter one day came up and said, he might be good for you, but he's not good for me. And she was about 8 or 9. And that was the first time I kind of thought, oh, yeah. I mean, we kind of didn't give you guys a choice at all. And I was pregnant with our son. So, years go by, and you're just kind of living life. And the girls were suffering. Gary was a good husband, but as far as the step-parent role was failing, and the bitterness and anger started to just really take a hold on me. We were, at first we were in church, and then just got busy. It was too hard to get the kids ready for church, so we just stopped going. We'd go maybe once or twice a year, Easter and Christmas. And that's kind of what we did for 10 years, and the slow decline, we had an issue at about a 10-year mark that I was starting to pull really strongly away from him. And we talked about it. We wanted to be together, so we started to work some things out, and went to church a couple of times, and then there we were again. Another 7 years of not doing what we needed to do. So here we found ourselves a year ago. My oldest daughter, or my middle child, she was getting ready to graduate. She was having some car issues, and Gary's just kind of, well, you need to get a job, or, kind of that attitude with my girls. And I was like, this one night she came to me and she said, I am so done. I cannot live another day in this house with him. And I was like, I know, I'm right there with you. I'm so done too. And so that was last June, and that was the beginning of a major meltdown and division between us. And he felt it. He says, I come out of the room, and he says, what's wrong? I said, it's none of your business. And I basically made a decision that day that I didn't care anymore, that I was going to stand up. It was my girls again, once and for all. My girls are what matters, and I'm going to do whatever I can to protect them and make them see that whatever I needed to do, you know. And that was just a lie. That was a lie from Satan. He wanted to destroy what I know to be that God put us together. And by about November last year, we were separated. So it didn't take very long. And it's because I wanted to hang on to my anger, because that was mine. I finally had something that I believed in now, and I went and bought myself a ring that said, "To thine own self be true." And I thought, yeah, I'm going to put this ring on, and I believe I'm going to find myself. And I was working out and just being really selfish. I didn't care about anything, anybody. This was finally my time to do what I wanted to do. And I kicked him out, and I didn't care. I mean, I had no feelings whatsoever. And he started going to church. And when I got wind of that, I said, well, you better not be going to my church, because that's my church, and that's my family, and I know people, and if they see you coming to church without me, then they're going to think something's up, so how dare you? And I got even more mad. And then the next thing I know, he's getting baptized. And what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? And he was faithful. He went to church every chance he got. But when I said that, he decided to not go to church just one time, just to make me happy. And anyway, we find ourselves about January, and I was still angry. And my girls had heard some things and was concerned about some things, and one of them came to me, and she said, well, and they were calling him Gary at this point, not Dad. And my middle child was 2 when we met. She'd always called him Dad. Danielle was 9 when we met, and she had called him Dad up until maybe her senior year. They both were calling him Gary. So Leslie calls me, and she says, I'm just so angry at Gary. He told me some things that I don't think are true, and I said, oh man, he's blown it now. And so the next morning he wanted to meet me for breakfast, and I said, okay, yeah, let's meet, because I got a thing or two. And I felt this anger so bad, I just wanted to reach up and just punch him. And I actually drew my fist up at him, and he kind of cowered down, and I said, I'm so mad at you. You better call the pastor right now, because I'm gonna stick the pastor on you. You're in so much trouble. And he called the pastor. We need to come in. Pastor talked with us. I didn't know it was December 31st, so it was New Year's Eve. I didn't know that my life was about to change, but I was going to hang on to it for a while. So we worked through some stuff, and I just began to think, okay, I'm going to watch him for a little bit. He says he's saved. He says he's changed, but I don't believe it, so I'm just going to watch. And then I started to go, something is a little different, but I'm going to test him a little bit more. I'm going to be a little bit more mean and mad and see if he passes the test. And so I made a list of 64 things that he had to do. Well, he was losing his apartment that he had been in, and I said, oh, come on. That means he has to come back home. There's no way. How am I going to be me? How am I going to be myself if I've got him, in the house? So I made a list, and it had 64 rules. Don't touch me. Don't get close to me. All these things. Just don't even talk to me. And he did every single one of those every day. And about maybe 2 months of that. And I finally decided to give it up. And I discovered that I'd been really selfish, and I wasn't. The "to thine own self be true" was kind of a joke. It was to God I needed to be true, and I found myself with God again, and that's who I was. I was running from who I was trying to find, but all along, after we'd got back together, I had this revelation that I was me all along. The devil had been trying to steal what I was a wife, a mother, and our relationship has grown tremendously. We're doing great. We still have challenges. Our oldest daughter, there's some issues there, and it tries to drive a wedge between us, and it happened even a month ago. She was staying with us, and instantly, that anger, I felt that anger again, and I was like, how dare you? You've come so far, how dare you? cross words with her because you know what that means. And I was expecting him to have all this control, and I was wanting to get into that anger again. And we recognized what was going on, and he came to me and he said, you know what this is? And I didn't want to believe it. No, it's not that. But he was right. It's the very tool that the devil uses to drive a wedge between us. And we've overcome that. And we have some challenges that we're facing coming up in the future with the family and certain situation. But the fact that we know what we need to do and to stay in prayer every day, we'll be fine. And we're not deceived by that anymore.
Just a little touch on my side of it here. When we first met, Stephanie said that if I wanted to date her, basically date her at the time, that I needed God in my life. We needed to go to church. And at that time, I thought that's easy. I can fake that, go to church. I can raise my hand. I can sing a little bit. It's an easy thing to fake out. That is exactly what I did for the first 10 years of our marriage. Little did I know, looking back, and what God has shown me, over the last months, that first 10 years, even though I was faking it, God was with me the whole time, touching me. Showing me how to be a man of God. The whole time through, though, like I said, he's showing me, but I'm fighting it. I don't believe it. I don't want to believe it. I don't need God. I'm a 40-something year old man, independent. I don't need God. Well, then, and like she said, it was last May or so, we started having problems. October, she actually started mentioning separation, and I'm like, that's fine. That's your problem, not mine. I still was in denial. But I did start going to church on a regular basis, and I started getting the Word every day. It was November. First week in November, I actually moved out of the house, and I thought that was for the best. That first, I wasn't out of the house an hour and a half, and I'm like, oh man, I just made the biggest mistake of my life. Went to work, started just seeking God, and I'm asking Him for help. I finally realized after 40-some years that I need God in my life. Whether I'm married or I'm single, I need God. So I'm asking Him, to show me some signs that you're with me. Everybody says you're with us all the time. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all, but you need to show me. I remember going to work. I sat down at the computer one day, or sat down at the desk with the computer there, and basically crying that my whole life is over. I don't have a wife no more. The daughters were both were mad at me. At that point, I didn't care if they were mad. They were just an extra thing to the marriage. But I did care that our son was going to be hurt coming from a split family. So, like I said, I'm sitting at the desk praying, just asking for help. That moment, my right elbow hit the mouse on the desk, and the computer popped on. And I don't watch YouTube at all. I don't watch videos at all. But up on the screen popped, it's Chris Young. He's a country singer, and the video was "The Man I Want to Be." And basically, it's a video where this guy is in trouble with his girlfriend at the time and realizes he needs God's help. And he starts asking God for help. And I'm like, wow, if that's not a sign, that's crazy. So I started really pursuing God then. Another time going to work, I'm driving. It's snow on the road. I'm driving on Green Springs. It's a curvy road. There's a foot of snow on there. I'm in 2-wheel drive, not 4-wheel drive. And I'm actually looking for a tree to run into to end it. All of a sudden, my windshield goes like white. And I start seeing this vision. And it's kind of cartoon form, but it's not in cartoons. I see the vision. It's Stephanie and I together, the two girls. We're having our nice little family. We're going to church. Our son is born. We're still going to church, but it starts dropping off. At the 10-year mark, things fell apart. And in this vision, I see God's hand. And I hear his voice, and he's like, right here is where it fell apart. And what had happened is, even those first 10 years of going to church and faking it, I'm still building a foundation with God. Still building a relationship, even though I didn't know it and I didn't want it. And at that problem we had at the 10-year mark, God basically scooped us up, saved us, saved our marriage, but our foundation crumbled. It's in Luke and Matthew about the foundation. So our foundation crumbled at the 10-year mark, and from that point to last year, we never had gone to church again. So we had no foundation. God actually showed me that. That's when I really started seeking God, seeking a relationship with Him. And then, like Stephanie said, come January, we actually both started getting counseling from Pastor Jim and getting into the Word. And the scripture I said earlier, where if you draw close to God, God will draw close to you. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship. And if you have a relationship with God, any of your other relationships will work. Since then, since we've been back together, both the girls, I've apologized, asked forgiveness. They're where they need to be with relationship-wise. They both love me. They both said they forgive me. Our son's good. It's a beautiful thing having God on your side. One scripture that got me through everything is 1 Corinthians 13. I'd just like to share it with you. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, and is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. That is how God feels about all of us here. And if we would just do this, return the favor, same thing to God, same thing to our neighbors, our friends, the people at school, if we would just reciprocate that, it would be a beautiful, beautiful place.